In my previous video, we dealt with perhaps the most dramatic example in history of somebody using failure and failed projects to build a very successful project. I'm of course talking about the Wright brothers. You can catch that video. In fact, make sure you catch it, because I've received a lot of very positive feedback about it. You should be able to see a link shortly on the top right hand corner of your screen, which if you click will open a page where you can go directly to that video. I highly recommend it. But for today, we're going to come closer to home, closer to the country we love called Kenya. And don't for a moment think or suspect that because it's local, it's boring. Indeed, the story I'm about to tell you is one of the most exciting local business stories you will ever hear. It's full of suspense. It's full of everything. And what is more, although it was based in Kenya, everything happened in Kenya. This man was handling an internationally recognizable brand, a franchise. I'm of course talking about Diners Club. But let's start at the beginning. Al-Noor Kasam is a Kenyan. But he went to school, he went to university in the UK and qualified as a chartered accountant. Entrepreneurship and doing business was burning inside him. So while in London, he briefly ran a cab service while he was still a student. But he finally returned to Kenya, and rather than looking for a job, he decided to dive straight into business. Now the first business he did was rather interesting. He did book matches. Now I don't see book matches in the market anymore, but these are the matches which you open to tear out the match, and strike it. Now before you open it, right on the cover is usually an advertisement. And in those days, a lot of people smoked in public. So this was a very ideal way of placing an advertisement for any company. The name of Kasam's company was Empire Match Company. Well, one thing the name of that company tells you is that Al-Noor Kasam was already thinking of an empire, even as he started this humble but extremely profitable company. Revenue came in from the advertisements, and sometimes these matches were sold, so double sources of revenue. He of course kept his overheads very low, and with a proper good distribution system, matches are a product for the masses. Everybody, at least those days, used to use a match in one way or the other. So it had huge reach for the advertisers and amazing profits for the owner of the Empire Match Company. But as he was running this humble but very profitable business, an opportunity came knocking. Now if I can quickly remind you, we are talking about how people use failures, failed projects, failed companies, to create very successful projects or businesses. Now we've already seen the huge shortcut somebody takes, by refusing to repeat the same mistakes of those who have come before them, and instead carefully studying them, correcting them, so that they arrive at a point way ahead of where the most successful failed project reached. It saves you time, it saves you money, a lot of money. And sometimes you can take over a company that has failed and you turn it around into a very profitable company. It has been done all over the world very many times. And the principle is the same, because you carefully study where the company failed, where they went wrong, and then you correct those mistakes, and you turn it into a profitable enterprise. Now it came to Mr. Kasam's attention that the local Diners Club franchise had gone bankrupt. They may not have declared bankruptcy, but technically they were bankrupt. They were up to their ears in debt, and therefore they were not able to meet their obligations. Now, to simplify what Diners Club was, especially for our younger listeners, this was a credit card for restaurants. You went into a restaurant, you ate, you signed for it. At the end of the month, you received a bill, and you paid. Now, of course, in those days, Diners Club locally had expanded the outlets, to a few other entertainment joints and even shops. Now, because you signed your bill and you paid it at the end of the month, what you're actually doing is borrowing money. And at least in those days, Diners Club charged 5%. Now, if you don't have a head for figures, this may sound like a very small margin. 5% is very little interest. Actually, it's not. And Al-Noor Kasam saw it immediately, because it's 5% per month. So in a year, we're talking about 5% multiplied by 12. That is 60%. Now, 60% is crazy interest to charge. And Al-Noor Kasam realized that actually this was a license to print money. 60%. Wow. But the company was in trouble, serious financial trouble. Now, Kasam quickly realized that it was a problem of management. When you're handling any financial services, management is key. You cannot have casual management, especially over a financial services company. So he simply corrected that, tightened the management, and then started expanding like crazy. Now, talking about it now, it looks very easy. But at the time, many people believed that Kenya was not yet ready for a credit card. And many believed the problems that Diners Club was facing was precisely because of this. Rich Africans did not like signing for things. They preferred removing the money in cash. If you're a rich person, the moment when you are paying your bill and removing the notes, the words of cash, was a moment of pleasure. You're showing people you have money. Now, when you sign, it just doesn't cut it. Now, you need to believe me because I was there. And I heard more than 2 or 3 Mzungus talk exactly the way I've just talked. And of course, they were wrong. For anything, it just depends on how you market it. Because owning a Diners Club card in those days was prestige. It was prestigious. More prestigious than counting out cash, or rummaging your pockets for cash, or reaching out to your wallet and removing cash. And Kasam hit the ground, heavily advertising the brand and positioning it as something prestigious. Now, as luck would have it, the Peace Corps, the American Peace Corps, normally run a program where people who have retired from certain fields, businesses, who have skills and a lot of experience, come to Africa and are attached to a company for a brief moment of time. They train the management and pass over their skills to these companies. Now, I don't know if this program still exists, but it certainly existed in the time of Al-Noor Kasam. We even applied for the same program at a time when I was the editor of a certain business magazine in town. And the amazing thing here is that you did not need to pay for this program. All you did was to pay a small maintenance fee, actually partial maintenance, for the expatriate coming in to pass on the expertise to you. So this expatriate brought into Al-Noor Kasam's company, customer service, marketing, and a lot of other tricks of the trade as far as credit card companies are concerned. So the kind of professionalism that came out of Diners Club, local franchise run by Al-Noor Kasam, surprised many Kenyans. It shocked many Kenyans. But the people who were more shocked were their bankers, because within no time, from a debt-ridden company, Al-Noor Kasam was running a very successful, highly profitable enterprise. And within no time they reached the 100 million mark in turnover. Now, in those days, that was an absolute fortune. Now, it's very important that we understand this achievement that Kasam managed to chalk up. Imagine today a brand new company coming into the market, and then within less than a year, they're competing with Safaricom in terms of turnover and revenue. They did it by having a highly motivated staff. I visited the Diners Club several times. In fact, I did a very lengthy article on some of the things they were doing that had set them aside, that had set them apart from other companies. There were huge cash rewards for any employee who surpassed their targets. Every employee in the company was a salesperson. You know how you walk into any company and the receptionist is doing her nails. She has no interest whatsoever whether you're going to bring in any business into that company or not. She's just doing her nails and waiting for her salary at the end of the month. Walking into diners, the receptionist would do everything in her power to make sure you felt very welcome. And even if you came in with a bad mood, your mood would quickly change because the kind of handling you'd be handled would be first class. The long and short of it is that this was a company far ahead of its time. Yeah, at least as far as Kenya was concerned at that time. Shortly after the local Diners Club franchise started making money like there was no tomorrow, Al-Noor Kasam saw a second opportunity. There was a bank called Trade Bank, which was in trouble. And Kasam saw that just by transferring all the accounts of Diners Club into a new bank called Trade Bank, that bank's fortunes would turn around dramatically. At the time, of course, they were using other local banks and helping those banks to make a lot of money, from the Diners Club account. Now, I think you're all aware that when a company is in trouble, you can get it for almost nothing. In most cases, it will simply involve you taking over the huge burden of debts that company owes to other people. To cut a long story short, Al-Noor Kasam quickly took over Trade Bank, and within no time, Kenyans saw a new, very innovative bank in town that was ahead of its time. They introduced drive-in banking, where you just drove in. There's a counter while you're still seated on your car, you transacted your business and you drove out. It was open 24 hours, and they took up the slogan, "No Maneno Banking." Now there's an interesting aside here. One of the managers at Trade Bank is a Kenyan people know very well, Bwana James Mwangi. Bwana James Mwangi of Equity Bank. Now you know where he got many of those ideas that implemented at Equity Bank to make it such a huge success. Now up to that point, I believe I've illustrated to you how you can take a total failure and turn it into a huge success. I've given you a story of how a Kenyan did it and completely revolutionized the way things were done in Kenya. Very many people admired Al-Noor Kasam, including myself. But unfortunately, many powerful people within Kenya envied him and felt jealous and did everything in their power to bring him down. Now in retrospect, the big mistake Al-Noor Kasam made was to buy Trade Bank. And it had nothing to do with the financials. And it had everything to do with the fact that it got him mixed up with politicians. Now, when you get mixed up with politicians in any country, that is bad. But when you get mixed up with politicians in the country called Kenya, that is just catastrophe. Now, very quickly, this is what happened. When Kasam took over Trade Bank had hundreds of millions in bad debt. Now, one of the companies that owed Trade Bank a huge debt, which really affected it in the end, was associated with a politician called Nicholas Kipiator Biwott. Now, Biwott is deceased, recently deceased. And Kasam's problems started when he very aggressively made efforts to recover this huge loan. I believe it was 400 million or something like that. It involved him taking over assets, like the Yaya Center. Actually, Kasam was a very brave man because Biwott at that time was an extremely powerful person in Kenya. And he was very ruthless. In the end, Kasam had to flee for his life. He had to flee from the country called Kenya. And after he left, his enemies just looted his property. And is still very profitable Diners Club franchise. Today, Integrity Center, where the EACC are, indeed where a man called Evans Kidero spent the last 2 nights, is a reminder of Kasam's magic in Kenya. That building used to be called Trade Bank Center, the headquarters of No Maneno Banking. Today, Al-Noor Kasam lives in Canada. Indeed, I had the pleasure of interviewing him several times for my Kumekucha blog. You can Google Al-Noor Kasam, Calgary. That's a major town or city in Canada. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story, full of suspense, full of all kinds of things. And more importantly, I hope I've illustrated to you that it is not the same thing to start a company from scratch as it is to take over something which is already running. Even if it's in losses, even if it's bankrupt, you already have a head start because all you need to do is to correct the issues and the problems that have led to the bankruptcy. Now, I dare say this is the same principle with the ebooks we're promoting on this channel. You can see those books on your screen now. With the first book, you're taking over 101 tried and tested ideas. Indeed, businesses, because these are not dreams, these are not theories, these are tried, tested, researched ideas. It took us over 5 years to put it together. So you have a head start. And when you choose an idea, when you choose a business, it's not even in debt, like the situation Al-Noor Kasam faced. With the second ebook on how to attract customers, plenty of customers right away, you are taking over systems, and techniques, which you can apply to your business, the business you choose to do, so that you hit the ground running. And so that you're way ahead of somebody who starts from scratch without these two very powerful tools. And the kind of money you need to get both ebooks is not the kind of money you'd even take out somebody for dinner. $25 or 2,500 Kenya shillings is nothing. Use that email address you see on your screens now and get these valuable tools and get started right away. Don't postpone. Procrastination is the thief of time. You know how people keep on saying, I'll do it tomorrow, and 100 years pass, they've never gotten around to doing it? Maybe I exaggerate, but you get my point. Now, I've received a lot of very positive feedback, but I'd love more feedback. I don't mind. Even if you're talking about the problems you're facing, I don't mind. I'm very committed to your success, because your success will lead to a better Kenya. And that's what we are about on this channel, a better Kenya. Of course, if you don't live in Kenya and you're not a Kenyan, you're still very much welcome, to get these two very valuable tools. And you can be sure, even outside Kenya, they are game changers. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.